another Q&A edition of Optimal Health Daily, episode 245. Hello, I'm Dr. Neil, and welcome to another Friday edition of Optimal Health Daily, where I answer your health questions related to fitness, diet and nutrition, stress management, anything along those lines. If you want to send in a question, it's basically like getting a consultation for free. It's really easy to do it. Just come by oldpodcast.com and look for the bar along the side of the page that says Ask a Health Question. If you click on that, you can record a message straight from your computer's microphone or from a phone if you use the app. You can do multiple takes, and once you're happy with it, you can submit it to us. It's that easy. Or if you like to do things the old-fashioned way, you can call 61 I Love OHD. So either that or visit oldpodcast.com, send in your question, and you'll be in small special raffles to win books from us. In fact, believe it or not, we're doing another raffle in just about a week. Plus, you sending in questions makes me super happy. This is one of my favorite parts of the show. For me, the timing of today's question was just perfect. I happened to have this very same conversation with my students about 2 weeks ago. So let's jump right in, hear today's question and my answer as we optimize your life.
Hi, Dr. Neil. This is Megan from Albany, New York. Thanks so much for this podcast. I really enjoy listening every day. I wanted to ask a question about leaky gut. I have been hearing a lot about leaky gut lately and how it can be caused by poor diet and too many antibiotics. I was wondering what your thoughts are on how to know if you have a leaky gut, and if so, how to heal it. Thanks.
Hi, Megan. Thank you so much for your question, and thank you so much for your support of our show. You're right that we are hearing more and more about this idea of individuals having a leaky gut. In fact, leaky gut is being blamed as the cause for a number of chronic diseases, everything from celiac disease and irritable bowel syndrome up to Alzheimer's disease. So let's start from the beginning. What is a leaky gut? This is actually a very simplified term. What we're talking about is something that's a little bit more complex that's happening within the body. The term gut is most often referring to the stomach, but really can refer to any part of our abdominal area, and therefore can encompass the gastrointestinal tract, not just the stomach, but the small and large intestines too. In fact, when we're talking about a leaky gut, we're actually really only talking about the small intestine. You may hear leaky gut referred to as intestinal permeability. So if you hear that term, it basically means the same thing. Now, when we look at the intestines under a microscope, we see that the interior lining of the intestines, the part that is exposed to the food you eat, are made up of lots of cells. In the small intestine especially, these cells are packed very, very closely together so that large molecules aren't able to squeeze past them. It actually kind of reminds me of a game we used to play as kids called Red Rover. Now bear with me here. I promise there's a point to this. But the game Red Rover would go something like this. Half of us from class would stand in a line across one end of the schoolyard. We would form this line by holding each other's hands ever so tightly, creating the strongest barrier we could across the width of the field. The other half of the class would stand facing us on the opposite end of the field. So the group holding hands creating the barrier would then yell, Red Rover, send blank right over. The blank is where we would insert the name of someone on the opposite side of the field, one of our classmates. When that person's name was called, they would come running at us at full speed. Their goal was to try and break the oh-so-strong barrier we created by holding each other's hands. Now, back to my point. Imagine our small intestines are like the group holding hands, trying to prevent anyone from making it through their barrier. Now imagine food, viruses, bacteria, anything that can get into our gut, imagine that is the kid running at full steam ahead at the barrier. Sometimes the kid would get through. Other times they would slam against the barrier and fall flat on their face. Same goes for food, viruses, bacteria, or anything else that can be found in the gut. Sometimes any one of those get through the tight barrier of our small intestine. If that happens when it's not supposed to, that can cause some serious trouble because now those items are getting into our bloodstream. Well, so what? What's the big deal? Can our bodies just destroy whatever gets past that intestinal barrier and gets in the blood? Yeah, most of the time, sure. But Sometimes the side effects of something slipping past the intestinal barrier are not so pleasant. Gas, bloating, constipation and or diarrhea, joint, body aches. Sometimes these can occur when those molecules slip past the intestinal barrier. So what we've learned is that for most people, their red rover barrier isn't as strong. This could be caused by a number of different factors. Stress can make the gut barrier weaker. Certain foods, possibly pesticides, and as you mentioned, Megan, antibiotics can also make our guts a little bit weaker. Some strongly believe that gluten is the cause of leaky gut. Others blame dairy, but please know this is not true. Unless there's a diagnosed food allergy or suspected food intolerance, most folks don't need to avoid these. It really depends on the person. Often, having a leaky gut is a complete mystery. But when it comes to increasing symptoms of leaky gut, the usual suspects include stress, anxiety, negative thoughts, depression, and not being physically active. This means that sometimes the first treatment is stress management and becoming more active. When it comes to actual treatment, I would first definitely see a physician to make sure there aren't any undiagnosed food allergies or intolerances. Because once that's been ruled out, you can start eliminating fruits from your diet and chances are you'll feel better. If there aren't any undiagnosed food allergies or intolerances, following an anti-inflammatory diet would likely be helpful. This would be a diet that's low in simple sugars, think low in processed foods, but high in fresh fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices like ginger and turmeric. Fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, and seeds are high in fiber and high in poly and monounsaturated fats, which help reduce inflammation throughout the body. That's really what's happening with leaky gut. The body is going through some systemic inflammation. Also, increasing omega-3 fatty acid consumption through fish or even supplementation, provided those are high in quality, of course, can also be helpful. Buying organic produce to help lower pesticide exposure may also be helpful. For some, limiting alcohol and caffeine may help as well. And lastly, maintaining an ideal body weight can really help reduce systemic inflammation. What I often recommend for those that are overweight or obese is losing even just 5 or 10% of their current body weight. Even that small amount of weight loss can help start to reduce inflammation in the body. Now, what about pre or probiotics? I want to mention that you should be careful when it comes to using those. This is because for some with leaky gut, supplementing with pre or probiotics may make you feel worse. And again, I want to emphasize the importance of watching those stress levels and negative thoughts. Sometimes that's the best treatment. Thank you again for your question, Megan. You're going to be entered into a very small raffle every month to win a book from us. And one last time, really quickly, you can be entered into the small raffles and possibly have your question answered right here on the show. Just come by oldpodcast.com to submit your question or call 61-I-LOVE-OHD. It's that easy. Before I sign off, I want to again thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sending in your questions and supporting the show. I hope you have a great weekend. Happy Christmas in June Eve. I think I got that right. And I'll see you on Monday where your optimal life awaits.
Hello, Life Optimizer. This is Justin Malik, creator and producer of this show and Optimal Living Daily, the brother podcast of this one. Literally, I'm Dr. Neil's brother. If you like the format of this show, you'll love Optimal Living Daily too, where I also read to you from blogs, but cover other topics like personal development, finance, and minimalism from bloggers like Derek Sivers, The Minimalists, Zen Habits, and many more. So for more amazing content read to you for free, come subscribe to Optimal Living Daily too, and together we'll optimize your life.
You've been listening to Optimal Health Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's oldpodcast.com for a free gift, as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.